Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang. Welcome back to Solo Roll Mangging. Right, so, yeah. We're on session 4 of this little adventure here, and it's fleshed out quite a bit. It's really interesting to think that in only, a short span of time, relatively, we went from not really knowing how solo RPGing would work, and just rolling up a character, dumping into a nameless city in a nameless world, and just being like, okay, let's find a random job to do. And now, we're not in a nameless city anymore, or not in a nameless world anymore. We have a whole setting, and, plot has kind of developed. Spores are a real problem. So, last time, after kind of instigating this whole big quarantine of the city of Guthwald and threatening the entire region, really, sort of threatening the entire Union, because food is kind of important. This is a big source of food for the rest of the Union. It's certainly not their only source of food. And the rest of the Union will survive, even if Guthwald and this whole region falls. But it's complicated even more by the fact that the Union is at war with the Empire of Nim on their own, in their own territory here. So that's, it's... There is a timeline, I think, where if things continue to go poorly, the Union could kind of collapse or break apart once again. So after instigating that whole quarantine, we decided to just let things sit for a moment, and we wanted to just go out and get into a dungeon. So we hired another sellsword named Quinn. We went into the forest, we met a giant frog who was very helpful. He led us into a dungeon that was supposedly had some amazing treasure. And it turned out to be kind of a trap. As it turned out, the frog was a bit of a serial killer. He liked to lead people into this dungeon filled with traps on purpose so they die and he would take all their shit. So we lost Patrick, our porter, from a sudden fall. We obtained a magical scepter, the Scepter of Endless Charm. But then on the way out, we fought the giant frog, and Quinn died, valiantly defending us. So in the end, we left with very little. We left town with very little and 2 companions, and we came back with 0 companions, but a good amount of money. 727 silver total, after paying a little bit to Patrick's family for the funeral. And we also have the scepter, which I have ballparked at around 5,000. That should be silver pieces. But it is kind of an illegal object to just have, because the charm spell, I have decided, is an illegal thing. That is not sold or endorsed in any way by the Ministry of Magic. So this scepter is quite the heinous thing to own. So we'll have to see about that, but for now we're holding on to it. Okay. And then we came back to town, and that's where we're at. When we left off, I decided to level up to level 2. You know, just to keep things moving along. And I decided that we want to multi-class over to Warlock. Because mostly what we're interested in, for my purposes, is magic spells. And while the mage technically does get access to more domains, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 domains available to a mage. The Warlock has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, no, they're equal, but they're slightly different in what they have available. Notably, Warlock has access to Psionic and Shadow, which are two things that interest me quite a bit. They also eventually get Sorcery Surge, where once per encounter, or a number of times per encounter equal to your level, you can cast a spell at advantage, which is very nice. So, we're going to go with Warlock. We did most of the leveling up outside of actually picking a domain and picking some spell proficiencies. And so, while thinking about that, I wanted to pick spells, you know, a domain that obviously assists with our current predicament, which is the spores and this supposed gem that's buried near the church there. So I wanted something that was going to help with that. But I also wanted something that's going to help in the future for just any sort of situation. You know, we can't be that short-sighted. In the end, we're going to go with Shadow. We're going to go with the Shadow domain. And I actually have now my physical copy of the Rules Compendium that I got printed through Lulu for like $22 shipped. It's a really nice, just hardcover book to have on hand. So it's been great to pour through. But here are the shadow spells. Right there. So a bunch of them are quite good and useful. The two that we're going to be picking right now for our proficiency, as far as when we gain the domain, we're going to take Portal, because this allows us to teleport a target to a visible location within range. Teleport a target. Now, I don't know if it specifies what a target is. Very crunchy games, meaning games with a lot of rules sort of clearly outlined throughout the text. Games like that will absolutely tell you what a target is, or they will differentiate what a target is. They'll differentiate between a creature and an object and things like that. And now, the text for Heroes of Adventure does use things such as creature, or person, or object. So, there you see animation, just as an example, under the rune magic. It says target 1. And then in the text, it says animates a non-living object, such as a statue or suit of armor, to fight for the caster. But as far as like the stat line goes, it just says target 1. The target in this case is a non-living object, as specified. But for Portal, it just says target 1. Target can be teleported to a visible location within range. Now, as far as I'm concerned, then, that means that the target can be anything. There is a size consideration. There's a size medium. Which means I think that the largest size that we can teleport is something of medium size. Which is somewhat vague. I don't know if the rulebook anywhere makes a differentiation between objects as far as their size is concerned. Actually, that's a really vague term in any context of this, because it doesn't even list like the races as being different sizes or anything like that. So I don't know where else it even says medium in this. Hold on, it's gonna be in the creature side, in the creature lists, of course. And there are ranges, but that's not what we're referring to, obviously. Size is in monsters. So medium is a human. Small would be a dog. So any object, I guess, if you can teleport a human, you can teleport any object that's human-sized, right? I don't know if weight becomes a factor in here, but I don't think it gets that, maybe if a player is really pushing it, and they have, like, a statue of a human made out of, like, I don't know, an extremely dense, heavy metal. It's like, all right, well, maybe we have to draw a little bit of a line in the sand. But yeah, I think pretty much any object up to human size, any object or creature. And you saw it right there as well. So anything this size, smaller, we can do. Now, you can also amplify spells, which is really simple. Instead of just spending 1 HP, it costs 2 or 3. And if we spend 3, we can do up to colossal size. We can teleport anything. Now, they do get a save to try and prevent this teleportation. But teleportation of that sort of freedom, with like almost no restrictions on it, is extremely powerful. So we are definitely sort of min-maxing here as far as problem solving is concerned. So as soon as I saw that, it was like, all right, I gotta have it. The other one that we're gonna be taking is Shroud. Target becomes invisible. Spell ends when target engages someone. So again, there are level restrictions, even for casting on like yourself or something. We can only by default cast up to a level 3 target. So once we hit level 4, we have to amplify that spell if we want to cast it on ourselves. But that's, at that point, that won't really be a big deal. So invisibility plus portaling is, basically we kind of rule the world as an individual is concerned. Pretty much any king we could easily assassinate. I don't know, I haven't decided on how protective certain things are as far as magic is concerned. I haven't decided to really get into the nitty-gritty of like how rare or common the ability to teleport is at will. It's, sort of like they say for certain organizations and things like that, where the rules are writ in blood, So basically, once something horrible happens, that's when they start inputting putting in rules to try and stop it in the future. I have not decided if those rules have already been written or if they will be written because of us. I haven't decided that yet. But yeah, it's a very potent combination. So I get 2 of those just for picking Shadow. Then for leveling up to level 2, I get 2 more proficiencies. I think the third one for Shadow that we're gonna pick is... I don't know. Suggestion is potentially good. To plant a suggestion, a target to follow a simple order does not involve self-harm, but they can try to resist as a free action each turn. Which means out of combat. I don't know. The time is encounter, so no matter what, this suggestion only lasts 10 minutes. It does have use, I won't lie, but I'm not sure. There's also Shadow Form, which if we really want to get in anywhere, that sort of seals the deal. Turns us into a shadowy form, allowing us to slip into small gaps. Cannot be targeted, act, or engage others whilst in shadow form. This lasts 2 turns. So, in a settlement or, other whatever, when not in an active, dangerous location, that's an entire day. We probably wouldn't spend the whole day in shadow form unless we're like spying on somebody, because invisibility only lasts an encounter, so 10 minutes. So if we did want to do some long-term recon, that is the absolute best way to do it, for a whole day. But otherwise, I mean, most of the time you're just going to slip in and then get out of shadow form so that you can do stuff. Because it says you cannot act, which is pretty final. I mean, that kind of covers everything. So, Portal, Shadow Form, and Shroud is what we're going to take, just so we kind of cover all our bases of being able to go anywhere we damn well please. And then for my other last proficiency I can grab, I was leaning towards something in the totem range. I was thinking maybe Totem of Insight, because that would give us advantage on lore and magic checks for 2 turns. Now, again, I don't know how I'd really adjudicate this if I was a DM, but it says it lasts 2 turns, which out of, in a settlement or something like that, is the whole day. You're going to give a player advantage on all lore and magic checks for the entire day? Maybe. It's kind of good. The other question I had was, it says 2 turns, which out of combat is a long time. But what happens if you have that active and it's been like 3 hours and then suddenly you get into combat? You get thrown into it. You stumble into the wrong room. Does it still just remain active for the rest of the day? Or does like the 10 minutes or not, does the second turn just like start right there, and so you have 1 more turn of it left? Does the power of the ability suddenly just get drained away because you enter combat? I mean, that's why, as free form as this is, I wouldn't mind it to be a little more specific. When you use a single term like turns, but then apply different amounts of time depending on your situation, that just gets messy. So, I really don't. It's going to just be like, once that happens, I'll have to make a ruling. And then that'll be the rule. So yeah, we're going to go with Totem of Insight for advantage on magic checks. Even if it's just in combat, that's still pretty good. Alright, so... And again, we have all of these spells. Like, if I want to use Suggestion, I can use Suggestion as a shadow spell. It's just I'll have it at disadvantage. But with Totem of Insight active, we basically have the entire day of just normal spells, which is pretty good. And then Shadow Magic. We're gonna need another. Yeah, we're gonna need, because we're gonna get a lot of spells as time goes on. Shadow Form, Portal. Oh, so I didn't really finish talking about Portal. So Portal has a range of medium, which means that the target I cast it on has to be within 60 feet of me. And this is by default, not amplified. The size is medium. We covered that. The spell range is far, so I can teleport something up to 240 feet away from me. Or I can teleport myself 240 feet. Again, by default. It says resisted level 3, which is a curious thing to put. A lot of spells will put level 3, like Shroud, so I can only cast it on a target that's level 3 or less. But Portal says resisted level 3, so if I'm casting on something that isn't resisting, such as an object, or myself, or a willing ally, then I guess I can cast the base spell regardless. It seems insane. I don't know. It's I mean, from my understanding, assuming I amplify this spell by spending 3 HP instead of 1, I can teleport a meteor just with a check of 10 or more. And I can just teleport it above, like, the king's castle. And he dies? It's nuts. Because, I mean, Colossal, what's the limit? That's as high as the number, the letter, it goes. That's as high as it goes. I don't know. Again, this is where rulings will have to come into play, but still, it's gonna be very good. Damn fine combo. Yeah. Yeah. We are quite potent now. So, that's all well and good. We are leveled up. I did change a little thing. I took a point out of athletics and I put it into magic, so we have a d6 for magic. I don't know I'm not going to calculate the percentages of our likelihood to successfully cast any given spell, but it's a d20 plus d6, and we need 10 or more. So we have a fairly decent chance of casting spells. Not nearly 100% or anything, but it's alright. Okay, what else? So the plan, to deal with the spores. The plan that I decided on involves, obviously, a couple of the spells that we have picked up. Actually, not really. To be honest, I don't think I really need Portal or Shroud for the plan, even though I decided on those just because I really like them. The plan's pretty simple. It involves purchasing 2 scrolls that I believe would be fairly readily available as far as legal purchases. One of them is going to be a spell that doesn't technically exist, as far as the rulebook is concerned. It's going to be kind of a riff on the water spell Breathe, allowing a target to breathe underwater. I figure if that spell exists, it either functions outside of water, or there has to be some version that just allows you to breathe. If Plague Doctor's masks exist that allow people to breathe, their own supply or whatever, then there has to be a magical version of that. Keep in mind, the Golden Union is behind technologically because they have magic to solve problems. So there has to be some sort of breathing air spell for any use case. It's my game, damn it, and I'm ruling that probably exists. The other one is the earth magic spell called Terraform. A tunnel or hole is created where there was earth. Tunnel can be any variation within spell area size. The range, or the area of that is short, which is 30 feet. Which I interpret as 30 feet diameter. So we can remove a 30-foot diameter sphere of earth from existence. We're going after a corpse that is buried 6 feet underground, supposedly. I think that will solve our problem for us. And we can make it smaller than 30 feet. I mean, we can do whatever we want. And Garland, as a character, does not know the specific layout or location of this corpse. And me, as a DM, I have not decided or have not put together anything of what we're going to find out there yet. So it's iffy, but I figure Terraform, it's probably going to be of some use to us to unearth a grave very quickly. Because that's instantaneous. And it creates a hole where there was earth. That just causes the earth to vanish, right? I mean, it can't, like... It doesn't say it digs a hole and the earth gets transplanted next to the hole as if you dug it. It just creates a hole. It's fucking magic. So it should be pretty good. I decided, I think a lot... Well, I didn't decide. The game kind of decided. Scrolls are created with elementium dust and some sort of ink? No, the scroll. Right. So to make your own scroll, you need elementium dust and a scroll parchment. And the total for that is 300. So I figured that's a fine baseline for their just like easy, cheap spells. Spell scrolls that the Ministry of Magic sells. So, I think both of those scrolls in their base form are going to be fairly common, nothing illegal. I think probably the terraforming spell could be used for illegal activity, but that's not how things are kind of... I mean, a steak knife could be used for illegal activity. They don't price it. They don't price steak knives to absurd amounts just because it could be illegal. So I'm thinking if I don't want amplified versions, we're looking at like 600 silver for the two. If I did want amplified, probably maybe for the air spell or the breathe spell. I haven't decided. Because the rulebook is a little vague here as well. It says a critical success when making a scroll amplifies the spell. Well, but amplifying it normally means either spending 2 health to make it charged or 3 health to make it empowered. Is a crit when the scroll make it charged, or does it make it empowered? Or does it let you pick? I think, again, for the purpose of having an entire Ministry of Magic and not necessarily abiding by the rules of the rulebook, we probably can have both variants. So there are base scrolls, there are charged scrolls, there are empowered scrolls. They probably wouldn't call it that, but yeah, if we want any variant of it, we could. I just need to come up with a pricing scheme. I guess to be simple, you could say double the cost for charge and then double the cost again for empowered, which are going to be quite rare and expensive for them to make, I suppose. Because, again, I mean, if you want to make an amplified spell scroll, you have to get 300 silver for the ingredients, and then make it, and then hope you crit. So that's like a 5% chance. So 1 in 20, generally, of your scrolls you make that you spend 300 on are going to be amplified. The price would probably add up. So I think that's a fine enough baseline for now. So the plan is pretty simple. Use my totem thing to fly, and then fly above the area of the spores to get the lay of the land, find the church, scope it out, figure out, maybe from an aerial point of view, where this grave might be. If they have like some sort of graveyard. Because all Garland can go off of is the rumor that he heard from the hunter. And I should have written down the specifics of what I said. But basically, this thief stole an ancient gem from an ancient vault. And he was buried behind the church or something. I think that's something of what I said. Now, the specifics of that have kind of changed as I thought about it some more. But we'll go with that's what Garland has heard. As far as he's heard, the grave is just behind the church. Possibly nondescript. We may have to just, like, terraform the entire back of the church. You know, just to dig it all up and get a pile of corpses to sift through. But yeah, then use the breathe spell when we need to go down, so we can just breathe normally. Terraform where we think it might be. Get a big pit then from the open space of the terraform. Hopefully there are corpses there. Grab the gem, fly off over to where the ocean is, toss it into the ocean, wash ourselves off of spores, and go back home. That is the plan. Sounds very simple on paper. It will not be. There will be wrenches in the engine. The first wrench in the engine, of course, is getting paid for doing this. And I was thinking about Garland as a character. Right now, he's a very blank slate. He's what we'd consider like a newbie player character, where there's not really any personality there. There's not really any vices, virtues, things like that. It's just kind of like you're playing. You have like an avatar of yourself, sort of. Like he's just an agent of logic that I have put in here. So I wanted to flesh him out a little bit more and think about what he wants. What are his goals? And I was thinking about magic. How he's kind of in this search for magical power and things like that. And his uncle, if you recall, his uncle was a traveler and spelunker and stuff who ended up serving a dragon in exchange for power and, you know, magical knowledge. And Garland didn't want to go in that direction. He didn't want magical power that was just going to be used in service to some ancient, unknowable creature. He wants magic power for his own devices. And really, I decided that what he wants magical power for is... kind of utilitarianism. He wants to use magic specifically to better society. I mean, very specifically the downtrodden, the poor, and, you know, things like that. But really, society as a whole. And because in a setting where you have magic that's this relatively common and this relatively potent, it's kind of absurd that society is still ticking on as it is, as if they didn't have magic. I mean, you still have peasantry working the farms, you know, you still have the wealthier class, the lower class, you still have poverty and starvation, sickness, you know, you have all these things, and magic at its height should be able to just solve all these problems, but for whatever reason, it's not being solved. And I'll show you a good example from the actual rulebook. Let me go ahead to the nature spell list. So in the nature spell list, there is a spell called Plant Growth. And this causes plants in an area to grow rapidly and healthily. Think about that. There's a spell that just causes plants to rapidly grow, and they're healthy plants. As if time itself has accelerated and just grown them in a matter of, you know, minutes. Magic in this world is capable of doing that. And that we still have legions of peasants out here, toiling day after day in the fields to grow crops and getting paid a pittance for it. I mean, there was another one I saw that was like, I'm not even sure how to think about it, really, but transmute in the matters domain. Changes an inanimate object into living flesh, which obeys the command of the caster. Living flesh, can you eat it? If I make a sculpture, I mean, it's a really weird term, living flesh. Flesh, I mean, why does it have to be flesh? I don't know, it's specifically a transmute spell, though. But I mean, there's loads of stuff. Resurrection, you can just resurrect the dead. With apparently no real harm. Except a little bit to the caster. Regenerate. You can just cause people to possess superhuman healing. And this is just a rulebook. I mean, if you go off rulebook and just start thinking about magical spells that are comparable to what's in the rulebook, really, pretty much anything. So I think Garland, who's kind of lived in the slums here for a while, and, has seen and experienced how the peasantry lives, but has also seen what magic is capable of. I think he's kind of growing upset at the status quo. So that's his motivation, is to obtain magical power or influence that allows him to change the status quo. And maybe one wizard couldn't change the entire world and society and stuff like that, but if they all got together and worked together, then maybe. He sort of wants to form like a magiocracy. Just a government formed of spellcasters. I think he probably approves somewhat of what the commune is doing with necromancy. Maybe not in actuality with like how they're accomplishing it, but the concept. We're a group of very capable and well-intentioned spellcasters got together to create a utopia using their magical abilities. I think he approves of that concept. Alright, so, where was I? Right, the wrench in the engine is going to be getting paid for doing this. Yes, we could just do it as a good deed, but... And worst comes to worst, that's what Garland will do, if he has to. But, he needs money, he needs power, he needs influence to accomplish his goals, so getting paid for doing a job is pretty important. The issue is, the only people that are really going to pay him, potentially, for stopping the spores, is the government of the Union, and I guess the governor of Guthwald. So how do we go to the governor and convince him to pay us money to stop this problem? Especially because we're outside the city, first of all. We're outside the quarantine. Getting into the city is a piece of cake now. I mean, there's no issue with that. But talking to, I mean, do I go up to the governor, the governor's, estate or office or whatever in the city, knock on the door and be like, look, we've all heard this rumor about this gem in the spores, and I think that I'm gonna go in and take a look. And if the spores suddenly stop spreading, then I'm the one that was responsible, and you should pay me money. I mean, maybe that'll work. My plan originally was to just kind of wait for him to become more desperate, but I think that's not an altruistic way to do it. I think that's kind of an asshole way to do it. If I were playing a different character, yes, but I don't think Garland will do that. Because the people that are going to be that are definitely going to be afflicted first are the peasants, the ones working the fields and living outside the walls and stuff. So, no, it's not a good thing for me to wait. So that's an option. We can get into the city, knock on the door, try to get a meeting with him. We have no reference, no pedigree, nothing. We're just a guy off the street that wants to talk to the governor. It seems kind of unlikely. Alternatively, we just sneak into his home at night and be like, hey, this was the best way I figured to meet with you, and I'm gonna save the world, and you're gonna pay me money. That makes me seem really suspicious. And we kind of don't want to reveal that we have magical abilities. We want to keep that a secret from as many people for as long as possible. So how do we get a meeting with the governor then, normally? Boy, without it based on a lie or something that I would just come up with, that he'd be like, oh, I want to meet this man. He's got something very important to tell me about this. Gaslight them? In what way? Again, you know, I want to keep magic a secret as long as possible, so we don't want to get into a situation that I have to escape from, because that's bad. Tell them you're his bastard son. So I go into the city, I knock on the door, or I go into the governor's office. I tell the secretary there, hey, I'm the governor's bastard son. And then the guards come and arrest me because they probably heard that 1,000 times. Let me think. Yeah, I have no information. I have like no bargaining chips. But I also need to avoid saying something that would probably like incriminate me in some way as being involved with the spores. It'd be one thing if I could just go into the spores, get the gem, bring it back, and be like, hey, this was the cause of all your problems. But I solved it. Here it is. Then it's like, all right, I have proof, apparently, that I was the one responsible for solving it. But I'm chucking this thing in the ocean. So it's just going to suddenly stop one day. Maybe look like another governor? Well, I didn't pick any disguise abilities. And that would be pretty... The situation with the setting would make that extremely unlikely to work. We're on a separate continent from the mainland, and there's a quarantine that allows no ships into the dock. So it just would fall apart in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm tempted to just solve the problem and worry about money later. Just to be altruistic about it. If I were playing at a normal table with a normal DM, I wouldn't second guess myself as much. I would probably just go to the office, knock on the door or whatever, and just sort of bullshit my way through the situation. But solo RPGing, I can't bullshit myself, you know? So I want to have just like a logically sound plan that I can just say, yeah, that would most likely work. And then we can still do a roll, maybe with like a bias to the roll, but, you know, I feel comfortable about it. So there are some pitfalls to solo RPGing, especially in social conflicts and stuff. Alright, I mean, I guess we'll just go. We'll go into the city. You didn't miss... No, you didn't miss a whole lot. I basically was going over my spell choices for level 2, which I went with Shadow, because now we can teleport, we can be invisible, and we can become a Shadow. And then I was talking a little bit about Garland and his motivations. Stuff like that. We have not actually done anything yet. Alright, so I think we'll just go into the city, go to the governor's office, tell the secretary that I believe I have a way of stopping the spores from spreading. And have to imagine that that's not something that they're getting like 1,000 people in talking about. So my hope is that the governor, or at least maybe one of the governor's agents, you know, like his I don't know, his scribe or something, will meet with me just so I can get something on paper being like, look, I'm gonna try and stop this. If it stops, I'm gonna come back and, you know, we can settle this. Hopefully I can get some sort of number out of them to put on paper. But I mean, it is a long shot. But they have very little to lose. I'm not offering for anything up front. I do have a plan, yes. So the first thing is getting into the city. So right now it's May 3rd. We just got back from the dungeon adventure. So it's probably midday or so. I think I'm going to go in at night. The rules do not specify any restrictions for the shadow form. It just says, turns the caster into a shadowy form, allowing them to move and slip into small gaps. Cannot be targeted, act, or engage others whilst in shadow form. I don't know exactly what that means, but I would assume that I'm like a shadow. I think I still can be noticed as like a moving shadow, unless I'm also invisible. But I think probably with the way that's written, then if I was in the middle of a field and the sun, it's like high noon, and I do shadow form, I'd probably still turn into a shadowy form on the ground, but it's like quite noticeable. Sneak into the governor's office, hide my face, and tell them someone is going to stop the spores. And he's gonna... Damn this heart. Well, so I sneak into the office. So again, I don't want to reveal that there's someone... I mean, presumably you're talking about using magic. I really want to keep that in the vest. And still, that's kind of worse, because then I have nothing on paper. And I'm a suspect still when I do show up. Be like, yeah, I stopped it. Now pay me. Like, I want something on paper. So I think we're just gonna... I've gone from drunken buffoon to a ninja now. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I have. The first thing we need is... I don't know if we want to get this outside of town or inside of town. We need totems of flight. So I need parts of a hawk or eagle. Probably outside of town in the slums, really. I mean, they're probably hunting things, right? There's probably a lot of just like subsistence hunters in the slums. It's very vague though. It says to make the totems, I need a piece of the named animal. What is a piece? Like a claw? Do I just need like one claw? Or a feather? If I only need one feather, then one hawk will supply me enough material to make lots and lots of totems. But this, it says, it requires a part harvested from the animal in question. And there are specific rules for harvesting from animals or from monsters and stuff. Each monster will have up to 3 parts which may be harvested and used as resources for crafting. But I mean, a hawk, is that even in here? Just a hawk? Hawk, harpy, horse, no hawk. How am I supposed to interpret this? Alright, then I guess we'll just go with a feather, which means I just need... Those are probably around. I can probably pick up some feathers from a hawk or eagle fairly cheap in the slums. So I don't think we'll make a big deal of it. You're going to be angry if the flight ingredient in flight magic... Bird ingredient in flight magic isn't a feather. Yeah, no, I mean, I tend to agree. So here it says griffin. And you can harvest from it feathers, which give the ability of flight. But that's like if you want to make alchemy or something. Totem magic is... I don't know. The reason I'm not going to question it too much and make a big deal of it is because if you go to like air magic, that also has the fly spell. And you can just pick that and then fly whenever the fuck you want. So, yeah. So let's not question it too much. I'm gonna spend... I mean, what costs anything? I guess candles cost like 5. A meal costs 2. I don't know, we'll spend 7 silver. Maybe that's... I don't know. And, let's just say I bought 5 feather. This is all very, rulings over rules. Okay, so then I need to sit down and actually make... Did I sell the staff? No, not yet. I still am holding it. And I could charm the governor to just sign me like a contract. But that's sort of the age-old question of D&D and stuff. Does a target know that they've been charmed after it wears off? I think probably in this case, yes. They can try to resist as a free action each turn, which is like 10 seconds. Even if I remove myself from the building before he snaps out of it. He's going to have a contract there that he doesn't remember signing. Or if I take the contract and come back with it, he's still not going to remember signing it. So I don't think charming is really... I don't think that's the way to go for that. Okay, anyways. So we're just going to make like 5 of these flight totems. And I have to make a magic 10 magic 10 check to succeed. Each attempt causing me 1 health stress. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that 5 times. So this is a D20 plus D6, and I need a 10 or more. Because I assume it's meet or beat? Yeah, meet or beat. Okay. First one is a 12. I don't need to roll anything more. Second, 19. Good. Third, 10, good. 4th, 18, good. 5th, 13, good. Done. So we have Blight Totem times 5. That's good enough for me for that. Now I'm just gonna go to bed. Like in the middle of the day. We had a rough and tumble morning out in the dungeon. We watched 2 men die. So we're just gonna go to bed, get up at night. Oh, okay. So that's... Wow. All right. I didn't actually ever look at this. Overnight rest heals only D4 health or your fortitude skill die. We have nothing in fortitude, so we recover a D4 of our stress. That is going to build up. It says health lost through spellcasting is only recovered through overnight rest or magical means. Really? There is a healing spell that heals stress. Well, I assume that's just divine magic heal. It's a D6. There's also light magic heal. Okay, I guess that cuts through and heals stress as well. Until I hear otherwise. Well, like most RPGs, I would assume that members of the church are capable of casting divine magic. You know, if we break things up again by class, the mage and the warlock cannot cast light or divine spells. So you have to be... Like a druid can cast light spells. A monk can cast divine spells. I haven't actually nailed down how divine magic works in my setting. In the setting for this game, which is, you know, this whole... the Fallen Lands or whatever. It's traditional sort of D&D. Divine magic comes from the gods. But of course, in my setting, the gods don't really exist the way that they do in Dungeons and Dragons. So divine magic is functionally quite similar to any other type of magic. It stems from the same foundation of just magical energy. But there is sort of like a kind of a twist with the essence of belief that kind of makes it possible. Because based on the rest of the spell list, like, no other form of magic can heal. Except for divine and light, which stems from, you know, as far as they think, comes from a deity. So there is some sort of aspect of belief that makes those domains possible. Without there actually being deities sitting up there watching. So yeah, we probably could just go to like the temple district in town and maybe give a donation, of course, to get a magic massage from the priest. And I don't know how much that will be. Um, it can't be that little, because then otherwise every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to just throw 10 silver into the pot and, you know, get healed up after a rough night of roughhousing. And it does kind of hurt the priest. But then, can't the two priests, if there's two of them, just heal each other and they can just cast healing spells infinitely? Oh boy. I mean, if you ever want to break this game a little bit, you can do that. Just get two player characters that both know heal. Priest may do it for free, depending on the age of my character. That's a good point. So I don't know. I guess I'd price it similarly to like buying a scroll. Maybe like 250 silver. Which seems like a lot. But it has to be kind of out of the reach of the peasantry. Unless you're in like some small town with a kindly old priestly man who's more than willing to sacrifice himself to heal the town of their issues. Then maybe. But otherwise, in a big city like this, yeah, they're taking a hefty donation. Where was I? Right, so we're sleeping. So let's roll a d4. I rolled a 1. So we're at 11 health. And it is nighttime, the cover of night. And there's a lot of different ways we could get into this city without much of an issue, but of course the easiest way at nighttime is just to cast Shadow Form and slip under the gate without too much issue. No one's gonna really see a moving shadow in darkness. You'd have to be incredibly observant, I think. Assuming that I don't wander near some torches and I guess there could be torches around. But there's not floodlights. There's gonna be patches of darkness. I mean, I could make a roll to see if someone notices a moving shadow. But what would they do about it? I can't be targeted. I literally cannot be stopped. So just, for now, say fuck it. But I have to roll to see if I cast it successfully. A 5 and a 6 is an 11. We're good to go. So that means my stress is back up to 5. And we slip into Goothwall. I do have my map here. So we came in through the western gate. The northwestern gate. And there probably is also a curfew in effect as well. So I think the streets are fairly empty. And I'm not really doing any business in town at night. We're kind of waiting till day to go to the governor. So I think probably we're just gonna find kind of an alley and just sort of chill. Or I mean, we could just. It's fairly late. This is like 4 a.m. or something like that. So, yeah, I think we're probably just waiting. So let's just find an alley and chill. And that's the wonderful thing about RPGs. You can just say, yeah, I wait 2 hours in an alley. And then it happens without actually thinking about like how horrible it would be to just sit there for 2 hours straight in an alley. But, you know, I mean, detectives and stuff, they do stakeouts all the time, so it happens. All right. How long does this last? Shadow form turns 2. So technically it lasts an entire day. Because we are not at an adventure site or anything like that. Again, I mean, I don't know how I would adjudicate it if I was DMing for people. But for now, it's fine. So once the curfew lifts in the morning, which, again, shouldn't be too long, we will pop out of shadow form when no one's looking down the alleyway, step out, and we're inside. First order of business, then, is to go to some magic shops, you know, run by the Ministry of Magic. They probably got a couple scroll shops in town and stuff. I know better than to try to sell them the scepter. And we're going to pick up the scroll of terraform and the scroll of breathing air. And I'm gonna leave my bedroll and thing of grease at home. So technically I own that, but it's at home. And we're gonna pick up terraform scroll and breathe scroll. Those will set me back 300 each. So we're down to 120 silver. Do I try and sell the scepter and try and sniff out a black market in town? How would you go about doing such a thing? I mean, I guess I'm really just like ignorant of the criminal world. But like, say it's the 90s. Say it's the 90s and I move to a new city and I want to buy crack cocaine. Like, how do you initiate this process? Does anyone know the answer to that? You know, pre-internet or anything like that, where do you go? What do you say? Now, obviously, we're trying to find a whole black market, but essentially, we're looking for the criminal element of the city. Slyly imply I may need to sell something less legal to a vendor. Okay. I hesitate to say such a thing to like an official scroll shop run by the Ministry of Magic. Go to the bad part of town and ask around. Okay. We could go down to the... Yeah, I mean, I'm from the slums, yes. But criminals don't operate in the slums because there's no... I mean, there are criminals in the slum, but usually criminals operate in the better parts of towns. I'm speaking in a fantasy sense, not real life, but sort of in real life. I mean, pickpockets don't pickpocket in the hood. You know, pickpockets go to where there's money. So maybe I go down to the docks. And ask around. Although the dock, I mean, there's got to be some like bars down at the docks with some rougher elements. Yeah, the only problem is, like, I just did all that to get out of the slums and into the city. So, I guess I could wait. It's not crucial yet. Alright, then for now, we'll just hold off on selling the scepter. Try bribe. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can find the criminal element. I was just kind of curious. So we're going to go to the governor's office, which is on the eastern side of town in the walled-in ministry district. And that's not been, like, extra quarantined or anything like that. So that, I mean, that's open for business. Because the city still needs to function, and there's obviously a lot of officials and scribes that move back and forth through the city. So, we're able to get in without any questioning into that area. And we make our way over to the governor's office. It's probably a fairly busy environment. I think we're going to have to, like, wait in line for a while to even state our issue to the clerks there. And brings me to this other PDF that I have open. This is called the Plot Unfolding Machine, which I picked up off of Itch. It's essentially just a big Oracle system. And I don't know if we're going to use all of the systems here, but it does have just a good base Oracle that we can work off of. So the base system here, you have a D10. You can do disadvantage or advantage with it if you want. It has a deterministic list if you want a very concrete yes or no answer. It has a subjective if it can be a little bit more vague. And then it has interaction when you're interacting with an NPC or something. And then there's further ones if you want answers to certain types of questions, like a who, you know, a specific type of person, an intent, a place, a reason for doing something, an explanation for how something was happened or done, or an activity something is doing. And then a big D100 for, like, just a subject list, which is very nice. So it's a pretty good Oracle sheet. So I'll say, I mean, we wait in line for like an hour or something. And we get up to this secretary. And we could probably make some sort of rolls to determine the type of secretary, but I don't think it matters too much. Some sort of balding, you know, bespectacled, middle-aged man who's already weary of the day, you know. Asks us to state our business with the governor. And Garland tells him that he believes he is... He believes he has a way of resolving the issue with the spores. And I think that's all that really needs to be said on our part. Because we don't want to go into the whole plan out here in this entryway. So we need to determine how the secretary responds to this statement. So I think we're looking for... I don't know. I guess we're kind of just... What's the question here? Does the clerk, like, humor us? Or not, I suppose. Or do we want to get, like a reaction roll or something? How he feels about us? I mean, what... If I was a DM, how would I do it? As a DM, you just let things kind of progress most of the time. You kind of are a fan of the players, and you don't want to just be like, the secretary tells you to go fuck yourself. Like, that's not very interesting. And I guess if we leave it up to a roll, that is a possible outcome. The secretary tells us to go fuck ourselves. So I guess logically, he would probably direct us, maybe not to the governor, but to someone under the governor. Just to kind of have a meeting there about that. So yeah, I mean, let's not... Let's not roll, I guess. I mean, maybe that's bad. I don't know. Maybe we... No, again, if I was a DM, that's how I would do it. So that's how we'll do it. So he... How would this office really work? I guess he gives us like a number that like a queue, another queue to meet with one of the governor's officials. So we have to wait some more. And then eventually we are directed into another room, a side room, where we meet with Hieronymus Ninemeyer. There's got to be a job title here for this. They're some governor's aide, I guess. Yeah. So now I want to roll, though, just to see how Hieronymus feels about this meeting, stepping into it. I mean, that's not a death knell or anything, unless maybe we roll a 1. But just his general outlook on the situation. He probably was apprised with a note of what the meeting's going to be about, so he's not coming in blind. He's been told that it's about this guy came in and says he maybe can solve the spores. So we're going to roll on the reaction table. We got a 9. So he's indifferent. He's cautious. That's probably the most logical way. I mean, he's just like doing his job. He's humoring us. He's having this meeting. He's not throwing us out. But he's also does not think there's anything going to come of this. So he sits down with Garland. And he tells Garland to, explain himself. How is he going to solve the spore problem that the whole city together can't solve? And Garland tells him that he's heard this rumor. They've all heard this rumor. Everyone knows about this. That supposedly there's some gem that a thief took. And he was buried in behind the church. And that's what's causing all the fungus. And Hieronymus has heard the rumor. because that's the only, like, credible rumor that's going around. And obviously everyone's talking about the spores nowadays because they're under quarantine. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone has heard this. And probably Garland is not even the first person to, like, try and go get it. Anytime you mention you have a big rumor about an ancient gem buried 6 feet in the ground somewhere, somebody's going to try and go get it. So probably some people have gone into the spores and died in pursuit of this. So this Hieronymus probably assumes the same of Garland, that he's just another foolhardy individual that's going to get killed heading in there for this gem. And here comes the crux of it, because to tell the whole plan, I have to say that I'm capable of magic. But I think instead we can bend the rules a little bit and say that I plan on using scrolls. I have funds. I'll even pull out some of the scrolls that I bought and say that I'm going to use some magic abilities from scrolls, and I detail the plan. I'm gonna fly above the region to scope out the church. I'm gonna see if I can find out where the mushrooms are the thickest, which would be where this started, if this gem rumor is true. You know, if I see a location where it's very clear, and I think as a character, as a player, as a DM, I would probably concur that if this gem thing is true, and it's buried 6 feet underground there, and is the cause of all this fungal growth, it will be very noticeable. Like, if you compared the ground right above the gem to the ground at the edge of the spores, there's going to be a big difference. So, I'm assuming it's going to be noticeable. I will then use this breath spell so I can breathe normally without breathing in spores. I will use this terraform scroll to dig up the grave and get the gem, and then I'll fly it over to the ocean and toss it in. So, I laid out the plan. So, I want to know what Hieronymus thinks of the plan. So I guess we'll roll on the interaction chart, with the question being, does Hieronymus does he like my plan? Does he agree with the plan? Does he think it's a good enough idea that will work if indeed there is a gem there? We got an 8. Yes, but be careful. Okay. I would say that he has no real concern for my well-being. I think we could probably rule that out. But I think he does have some concern about me going into the spores while being capable of flight, possibly being infected and then bringing that infection back. Even if I do deal with the gem, I'm still carrying these virulent spores with me. So I think that's would be the most logical reason for his kind of hesitancy. But overall, he does agree that if this is all being caused by this gem, then it is a solid plan. Which is basically me solo RPGing and shaking my own hand and patting myself on the back. Like, yes, man, you did come up with a good plan. God damn it. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. So, nothing else decided, he at least accepts that it's an okay plan. Wear a mask. Well, I have the breathe spell, but the spores obviously will be on my clothing and everything, which is why I'm planning to take a bath in the ocean first before I come back. But, you know, as far as he's concerned, it would be better if I just died after burying the gem in the ocean. That would really solve all the problems. But he does want to emphasize the risk of this spreading in any way. Because you're talking about flight. And to be honest, I don't know if I decided if the Ministry of Magic sells scrolls of flight or not. If that's something that you want available to the general public. I guess there's no inherent danger in it. It could be used for illegal activity, but we already kind of went over that. So, if nothing else, he agrees the plan is all right. That brings us to the main issue here, why I came, and that is payment. That Garland is not just doing this out of the good of his own heart, and he does want something from the government in exchange for solving all of their problems purely at his own risk. I'm going to need to come up with a number. I feel like... Keep in mind, this is early days in this crisis. The governor himself probably believes that they can still solve this themselves. If this were like day 28 and the mushrooms are on like, you know, the outskirts of the city or something, and everybody in the slums is dead, then maybe I could charge more, and they're very desperate. But at this point, it's very early on. They're probably not inclined to pay much of anything. But there is that lingering possibility that maybe they can't solve it. So, how do you even decide on a number like this? Yeah, I can't look to like a random thing. It's got to be a... I mean, enough to buy a house? Isn't that what the scepter was enough to buy a house? This values a home at 1,000 silver. And you can buy a whole hamlet for 20,000. A village for 150,000. So I think if they were at their most desperate, maybe I could get like 100k or something out of them. They just throwing their treasure at me just to save the city. Possibly. But we're nowhere near that point. So I'm going to put out the number of 10k. 10,000 silver is what I'm asking for. Because I'm taking considerable risk and I'm going to save a whole lot of people. It says here an estate is 20,000. So if we take an estate to be like a really like, you know, like a mansion. Well, I mean, that's a big range. Like a McMansion. Like $1 million home or something in the Midwest. Or so. Then I'm asking for like $500,000. But that is still a lot, I guess. That's half of a hamlet. 10 homes for normal people. I can open up 4 shops after this, and we may do that. We may get into that to get some passive income. But, so I can move out of the hood. Yes, exactly. So 10,000 is what I'm asking for. Now I need to decide how much this clerk, this aide, disagrees with that number. How likely is he to even... He's gonna hang... I mean, he's not gonna just say, yeah, 10,000, that seems... I mean, maybe I'm undershooting it. Let's go on the reaction table, I guess. Let's just roll. Let's just roll. I'm just gonna see. 16. He's favorable to this number. So in his mind, that's kind of the ballpark of what he was expecting me to say. But he's still gonna haggle. So he's gonna say, you know, that's way too much. You're asking for the moon here. The governor is willing to offer 7,500 for this. So I could double down and just be like, no, it's fucking 10K, or, you know, enjoy your mushrooms. I'm out of here. I'll fly elsewhere. I'll fly over to the Empire of Nim, and where they treat us right. No. I could be really hardball tactics, but I'm happy to get anything, alright? So I'll go 9,000, he'll say 8,000, we'll go to 8,500, and that's probably where we'll just accept it. So 8,500. May the 4th. Let's see. Snuck into city. Met with governor's aide, Hieronymus. I am not spelling this correctly. Hieronymus. Agreed to pay 8,500 silver if spores is resolved. It's... Again, it's no risk, really, on their end. Because as far as he's concerned, I'm probably just gonna die. The only real risk is if I bring back spores. But he assumes, or as far as he knows, that I have air magic scroll of fly, which lasts 10 minutes. So I can't fly at will. I'm not going to be flying in at night or anything like that. What did this have to do with delaying that guy for the job? Boy, that was ages ago, wasn't it? Okay, I mean, I'll recap that if you want. The local noble or lord or whatever we decided on wanted this merchant to be delayed on his trip back to the capital city of Staunton because the merchant was going to inform the rest of the Ministry of Trade there that the crops of Guthwald were being affected by the presence of these spores. And this noble wanted some time to get his ship to Staunton first so that he could move some money around with some different investments before news of that hit. Maybe he's got all his money, because he lives in Guthwald, he's got all his money in crop futures and stuff. So he wanted the guy delayed. Basically, as long as the merchant Kurthorn was not in Staunton on May 7th, he was willing to pay out 500 silver, which is now a comically small amount, I should say. But it was meant to be somewhat of a comically small first job that really ballooned out. because I managed to get some infected boar meat that I put onto the docks to shut down the whole docks for a few days. And that ended up being a 30-day quarantine. And so the job is technically going to be completed successfully. Kurthorn can't leave for 30 days. And based on the timing of what we had decided, the Lord's ship had already left. So that was not fucked up. So we went way overboard. We went above and beyond the Call of Duty there as far as delaying this guy. But yeah, on May 7th, we can go back to that guy and get paid 500 silver. Which, I mean, hey, it's not nothing. So, yeah, there's very little risk to the city government for agreeing to this. And he does put it on paper. He does file it away that technically there is a contract with me. He takes my name, stuff like that. I don't tell him that I live in the slums. I should do a recap at the beginning of episodes going forward. You know what, Durden? I do. But, yeah, I understand, like, because I don't schedule my streams that far in advance. And also, I don't have a set time each day, each week. So I understand. But, yeah, I mean, the campaign, that's how campaigns go. They just balloon out. More and more things happen. So either I die out there and the spores continue and the government solves them some other way, or they suddenly stop because I solved it and I survived and I come back and they pay out 8,500 silver and their main problem is now resolved. I think they would be overall happy with that outcome. I didn't even bring up the frog. I did bring up the frog at the start. This frog serial killer. He was not relevant to anything. That was a side quest. So yeah, I mean, I think the government would be happy with this arrangement. Whether I die or not, I think it's sort of a win-win for them. And again, if I was DMing for a group of players and this is what they did and came through with and blah, 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 I'd be more than happy to kind of sign that contract for them. 8,500 silver, I mean, is a lot, but it also depends on the scope of your game. If the scope of your game is all about, like, dungeon crawling, and stuff like that, and you're trying to run like a real gritty, you know, they're fighting for every inch they get sort of thing, and you're paying them in scraps, and they really are just feel super happy when they get like 300 silver or something. I mean, then that's the scope of your game. In the scope of our game here, though, we kind of want to change the world, and especially in a solo RPG, I mean, we could set up an entire city that is our, like, we own the city. We could set up multiple businesses that we can run, and, you know, we could set up our own country. We could do anything. The scope doesn't have to end. So getting paid large amounts of money and allowing us to buy, say, a trading post for 5,000 silver is not the end of the game. It could be. I mean, we could retire, but that our character has big goals. But yeah, I mean, we could hire... Man, yeah. We could hire like 100 laborers for weeks. It's pretty cool. Okay, so with the contract signed, I don't know how they would really... Like, there's no photos. There's no ID. There's no thumbprint or anything. I don't know what, like, D&D games use for their settings. for like keeping track of individuals in a society. What did they do in the old days? Like during, you know, medieval times. How did they differentiate like one farmer from another farmer? And that's actually I kind of want to look into that. I guess it probably never mattered that much. They probably didn't have, I don't know. Like it was probably like if you had the piece of paper, or you know, if you had like a deed, then you have it. That's the end of it, or something. So maybe he would also give me a copy of the contract. That probably resolves it a little bit. Someone else could potentially come if they claim to take this and take it off my corpse, maybe. But that's probably. So I'm gonna just write down copy of contract. I should start a chain of bakeries. I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, there's rules in here for like, look at this. How long it takes to build property, renovation costs, events that you roll every quarter to see, you know, like certain things that can happen, criminals and feuds, disputes, taxes. And then at the end of the year, you roll for profit, deduct maintenance costs. You know. So, yeah, I mean, there's rules for running businesses. There's rules for running entire cities. It's all right there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely... It would not be the first time in an RPG that I've just ran a business for profit. And then you could just say, like, yeah, I kind of just run that for 3 years. And then 3 years go by. So, let's see, what would a bakery... That would probably just fall under shop, right? So that's a D4 income. So D4 times 1,000 silver per year in income. And then the maintenance for the shop is 2. So best case scenario, assuming no other things happen, you stand to make 2,000 silver a year in profit. Worst case, you lose 1,000 silver a year. So, I mean, averaging out, you're making like 1,000 silver a year or so. Meaning that one bakery would have to work 8 or 9 years to pay what they're about to pay me. But that's just one bakery. This city is a population of like 20 to 30,000 people. So the governor has a pretty large treasury. 8,500 is very little. A city with a population of 2,000 has an income value of D8 and a maintenance of 4. So they, and this has to be, that's times 10,000. So they, in a good year, make 40,000 silver. And this is at least 10 times the size of that. So yeah, they, don't worry, they're doing okay. 8,500 is... 8,500 is not too bad. Alright, so I have the contract. The guy kind of shakes his head. You know, he's like a poor bastard. Just poor bastard as I walk out. Because I'm off to die, essentially. Fresh bread is amazing. Wouldn't he love to say his city smells of fresh bread? You seem to be on a fresh bread kick, Dirt. Fantastic tourist attraction. I mean, I assume most places in the city have fresh bread. There's you can't go buy sliced bread at the grocery store. So, I mean, it's not as uncommon as it is now. All right, I think we have everything we need. I think it's finally time to confront the spores and see what comes of it. Now technically they're not. Well, technically they are allowing people to leave and come in to the city, because I said that they're still trying to keep up the farming industry, because crop production is pretty essential. So I don't think there's any real restrictions on leaving the city. Like, if you want to head out there, I mean, that's your choice. Coming back into the city, though, is much more tightly regulated. You have to have some good reason. Mostly, like, bringing in crops or something, which are then inspected. So I don't think there's much fuss in us just walking out of the city to the north. Now, flight. Flight lasts 2 turns, which is, again, technically right now it's all day. But once we get to the spores, that's what they consider to be an adventure site. And that's where time slows down, or speeds up, or whatever. So that's where it becomes 10 minutes. So we'll have to decide how that works. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea. It's alright, we're gonna head towards the spores. Surely you're the only audience for watching someone solo roleplay a bakery magnate. I don't know. You'd be surprised, I guess. Look, if I get into businesses, one of them will be a bakery. We'll say that. Because I'm probably going to open up some shops, and it might as well be a bakery. It doesn't make much, difference what type of shop you open. Although, again, if I were a DM, there would be certain... there'd be certain considerations narratively. If I'm in the middle of, like, a desert region and I open up, like, a fresh fish shop, there's going to be some questions. I don't know if I'll open up a bakery in Kuthwald, because as being, like, a major center of crop production and, wheat and grain, they probably have quite a few bakeries in the city. But, yeah, we'll see. Okay, so I crack open one of the flight totems once I, catch sight of the spores in the distance. And we're going to fly above it. And now we kind of have to decide the lay of the land. The spores is a pretty big region now. Like, actual, like, mushroom growth and stuff. We're talking, like, a couple miles across. And I think, these mushrooms are big, because that was the original idea, was like giant mushrooms. So 30 feet tall or something, like big ass mushrooms. and they're constantly just kind of like shaking and shaking loose spores. So the whole area is just like hazy from the amount of spores in there, like not really breathable. And there is other movement in the area as well that I can make out. I can see like fungal animals and stuff just meandering through the area. And I can, of course, also see the ruined church. So the church was very clearly once a functioning church. Not a magnificent one, you know, sort of like just like a rural, small town church. But I want to say that like a massive mushroom kind of just like grew right in the middle of it. So the entire roof of it has just been burst open. I mean, it's daylight out, but it is hazy. And that area especially is just surrounded and covered in mushrooms and spores of all sizes. It is quite clearly the densest area. And I have to decide, I guess, is it so dense that I can't see the ground from any angle? Can I not make out anything? I think we got to do a roll here. So do we want this to be subjective or deterministic? Probably deterministic. From any aerial point of view, can Garland make out features on the ground, is the question. The answer is weak yes. Okay, so I can vaguely make out some features on the ground, but most of those features are mushrooms. So it's I'm not pinpointing out like specific graves or anything like that. Now I want to try and determine exactly what I am encountering here. And I want to leave this pretty much entirely up to chance, because I did not plan for what I was going to encounter here. So I think we're just kind of asking a series of questions. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to ask a series of questions. So, first question, is there a graveyard, like, adjacent to the church? Like, any form of graveyard, like, where people are buried. And this is just going to be deterministic. 7, yes, okay. Boom. Graveyard. Yeah, it's a church. Yes, but it's not in a civilized location, and specifically, this is a church to a god of nature, of untamed wild. So they probably didn't get that many people that were like visiting here or staying here or anything like that. This is not the town church. So I think there is a graveyard here, but it's not many people. It's probably members of the clergy or other things like that. So it's a small one. The next question is the thief buried in this graveyard? And here's where I'm not sure if I want to ask the Oracle. Because we had decided, I don't remember when I talked about this, but we had decided that the thief, when he arrived at this church, he was already very infected with these mushrooms from the gem. That, you know, him holding onto the gem caused this. So he was infected with mushrooms. They were like popping out of his skin and stuff. He was in a lot of pain. But this church, which was a church of the untamed wilds and nature, believed the thief to be kind of like a sign from their god. Sort of like a living avatar of their god. That was sent to just kind of show his approval of what they were doing here. And so, you know, they prayed with him, and, you know, they didn't do anything to, like, alleviate his problems or anything, because as far as they were concerned, he didn't have any problems. He was blessed. He's probably near the big mushroom in the church. Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning that way. I'm leaning that they gave him, like, a special burial spot, and that's where the center of all this is sprouting. Religious zealots always ruining things. I mean, chances are they couldn't have helped him regardless, because that was the original plot that we had, was that they just kind of prayed for him, but still they couldn't do anything. But now they're like, yes, okay, he's a blessing. So I'm leaning towards that they gave him like a special burial spot. It seems a little wild for it to be in the center of the church, so maybe not the center, like in between the pews, but maybe on like the back end of the interior. Actually, yeah, I guess I would rule that if this is a church to like the untamed nature and untamed wilds, they probably didn't have like wooden flooring or anything. They probably wanted to feel the dirt beneath their toes while they were praying. So, yeah, probably just in the back behind the pulpit, they buried out a grave. And that's where he was buried. And then mushrooms started to just sprout out of the dirt where they buried him. And they were like, oh, you know, hallelujah. So let's go with that. So, I guess we would rule that this big mushroom coming out of the church is quite noticeably the biggest of the mushrooms in the region. Like, it stands a bit taller than everything else. And I think if again, if I was DMing and if I told the players that, like, oh, there's one mushroom that's bigger than all the rest, right, coming right out of the church, they'd be like, that's it right there. So I think we can safely deduce the same thing. So the question I have then is, can I see the ground at the base of that mushroom? And I think that's tricky. So I'm going to ask the Oracle. We're going to do a deterministic question, but I'm going to give it a bias towards the negative, because I think it's pretty unlikely. So we're going to roll twice, take the lower result. We got a 5 and a 6. So unfortunately, it leaned from a weak yes to a weak no. So our answer is a weak no. I can't quite make out the base. There's just a few too much spores and stuff in the area. And if nothing else, I think I need line of sight to the ground that I'm trying to terraform. So that brings in the crux that we have to actually go in there. And that's where the wrenches are really going to get thrown. Because there are things still in there. I've decided this weeks ago. The main members of the clergy that were worshiping this, they stayed the entire time. And they're still in there. But Garland doesn't quite know that yet. So we're going to activate the breathe spell. I don't have to do any check. It just happens. So we have, I believe, what was the water one? 10 minutes. Okay, we have 10 minutes now where we can breathe fresh, clean air, regardless. So we're gonna fly down into the church. And it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be hazy in there. The whole room is just filled with spores and just mushrooms off growing out of every surface. But it's still daylight out and it's still an open roof. So I think I would be able to make out any other figures in the room. And here, that's where we see the priests. I need a number. Let's roll a d4. That's how many there are. 4. Fuck. Well, that's what I get. Alright, so that's actually a lot. As far as members of the clergy. Maybe not specifically clergy. You know how often when you have like a movie with like a horror movie with religious people, there's always like some old rural woman that's really fanatical. Like in Midnight Mass and The Mist and stuff like that. So probably there was 1 or 2 people like that here. That also believed in the shrooms. So I don't think I have... I mean, there's not going to be stats for fungal human. So we're just going to have to spitball something. We do have a stat block for priest, but we're going to have to bump this up a little bit because they got to be kind of intimidating. So we'll say they are level 2. Exactly what you picture when you said religious zealots. Yeah, I mean, who fucking... I mean, the woman from The Mist is like one of the most hateable characters in all of fiction. So, yeah. They were probably high on shrooms and saw God. I mean, yeah, sort of. Alright, I just want to write down these stats. Level 2, we'll put their health at 9. Their defense, the shrooms give them a good coating, armor coating. So their defense is 10. And DR1 as well. Let's make it really tricky. I mean, chances are I'm not even going to fucking fight these things, because why would I? And then their skill will be a D4. And as for attacks, I don't know. I mean, they have the spore attack, which isn't really relevant to me. But they probably also have like fungal clubs. Like their arms are just clubs and do D6 damage. Done. There's your fungal priest. Okay. Can we have ChatGPT make an image of a group of 4 priests in a ruined church covered in mushrooms? I'll just see what it comes up with there. All right, so I swoop down and that's going to be what I see. And these things kind of like, yeah, sort of like Last of Us. They like just sense this intruder immediately. And they like shriek and moan as they turn and start shambling towards me. So we need some initiatives. Their initiative is all going to be 20. Fuck! So they crit. And I definitely did not crit. So that's that. They're all going first. I think one of them is going to have to take a swing at me. I mean, it makes the most sense. I mean, maybe 2 of them. I don't know how they were positioned exactly close to the central mushroom, but I imagine a couple of them have to be, they want to be near the big mushroom. I feel like this, I haven't touched this window in a while, so let me just refresh. Oh, there it is. Oh God. Well, that's certainly more than 4, but that's a pretty cool, creepy image. I kind of want to set that as a thumbnail. It's like a fucking metal cover or something. Can they see stuff? Well, I think that's, yeah, I probably not. I think they're probably just kind of reacting to sound and maybe just like movement specific. Like they can't. It's hard to say like how cognizant they are, how aware they are of who they are and what's happening, but on their base impulse, they assume that some intruder is threatening their sign from God. So they are going to try and remove said threat. So yeah, we'll say 2 of them are close enough to move in quickly. Like they reacted like that, dude. Okay, we need like some battle music or something. I tell you that Dragonborn. No, I don't want. With a voice wielding. Oh, there you go. We can just put on Doom music. What's better than that? Can they feel shadows though? You can turn into shadows and stuff. Correct. If I turn into a shadow, even if they did see me and were aware of me as this moving shadow, the spell literally says I cannot be targeted by anybody. So they could not harm me. They could not harm me in any way that matters. This makes it sound like I'm about to just fucking kick ass when really I'm about to get my ass kicked. I mean, every Doom session should have, or every D&D session should have a section where you just put on Doom music. So let's just get their 2 attacks out of the way. I'm pretty much defenseless. They crit on their initiative. So they're going to both swing their fungal clubs. D20 plus D4 for the roll. That's a 9, so they did. The first one missed. The second one does not miss. So he does only 1 damage. That's quite fortunate. Alright, so as it is, we're in quite the predicament. But I'm still flying, but now we really have to decide. We have to come to a ruling on that question. If I'm flying due to an ability that lasts out of combat all day, and I enter combat, how long does it last? I would say this would be my ruling. And, you know, if the developer, if the designer of Heroes of Adventure wants to come into this stream, come into this video, and correct me and say this is how it works, I will listen. But otherwise, I would say that once you enter combat, then the timer starts. And then you have 2 turns. I feel like that's the compromise. Because it's either it lasts the whole day regardless, or it instantly ends when you enter combat, or you get like 1 or 2 turns when you enter combat. So we're gonna go with once combat it starts, you roll initiative or whatever, then you get your 2 turns. Or 1 turn, depending on what spell you're casting or whatever. Hey, Django. So I am flying for this turn and for my next turn, and then that's it. Then I'll have to break another totem, which isn't the end of the world. So the smart thing to do is to fly just out of their reach. To fly out of the reach for this turn, and then next turn use the terraform spell. But alternatively, I could just cast terraform right now, right at my feet, and then this whole area just plummets. But that's the thing, like, I don't want a pit filled with wreckage. I wanted a pit filled with just like one body that I could just take the gem out of his pocket or wherever it is. If I cast terraform right now at my feet, you know, these fungal dudes are gonna fall into the pit, mushrooms are gonna fill the pit, you know, broken, ruined furniture is gonna fill the pit. It's kind of tricky, actually. Terraform does not solve all my problems instantly. Trying to think. Do we have anything else that could work, that could help? Portals. I could go invisible. Or I could go shadow form. I mean, either way. Any other shadow spell that I could potentially cast? But I really probably don't want to cast anything with disadvantage. I mean, I could amplify portal and just teleport this giant mushroom somewhere. I mean, that's an option. Invisibility might work for right now. Then I could really just assess the situation. Although time is ticking on the breathe spell. I only have 10 minutes for that, regardless. Roll for it? What, just roll to determine a course of action? I don't tend to do that. I roll for the world and NPCs, but all my own actions I try to be logical about. Alright, let's just cast Shroud. That will last 10 minutes. So we're at 8 health now. So D20, which was an 11. No, I didn't actually roll it. Oh, I did roll it. Yeah. Okay, no, 11. So we already succeeded. We're good. We're invisible. So then I'm just gonna kind of like fly away a little bit. Normally I would get an attack, they would get an attack of opportunity, but I'm invisible. So they're not aware of me anymore. I think the other two probably move in to where I was. But now they're all just kind of like standing there. Just like motionless. Waiting to send some other sound or movement. And I'm just hovering in the air invisible. So I am... Yeah. If I have a pit 30 feet down, and these things fall 30 feet. Well, for Patrick, we decided 40 feet was a D12. Honestly, I'm not sure how much I like that falling system. Like a D4 to a D20. Because D20 seems like if I fall 30,000 feet, I could take 1 damage. That is possible as far as that system is concerned. Which doesn't feel right. Whereas I think D&D does a D6 system. Like every 10 feet is another D6. That sort of guarantees a certain amount of damage from a certain height. To a degree. So let's probably just adapt that. I think D6 per 10 feet is fine. So 30 feet, 3D6. They have 9 health. They're likely to all die, I suppose. I think that's reasonable. So I guess on my second turn, I'm going to cast Terraform. Now, I don't want to fall, so I'm going to just move off to the side a bit. So I'm not going to cast it so it's right underneath me. And we're going to do 30 feet down. Not 30 feet across. I mean, Terraform it sounds very flexible, to be honest. A tunnel or hole is created where there was earth. Tunnel can be any variation within spell area size. So technically, we're just making like an odd-shaped tunnel rather than a hole. So the tunnel goes 30 feet down. You know, underneath the 4-plague fungal priests. And then I want it to go underneath the mushroom as well. And I think the mushroom is going to kind of cave in and fall over. I think that's what's going to happen. Because there's going to be nothing supporting it, but I'm assuming the corpse is right under the mushroom. So, I want to avoid any of, like, the furniture, and mostly I just want to get sort of the narrow area by where the fungal priests are, and underneath the mushroom directly, the big one. So, we shouldn't get too much other bullshit in the pit. But there will be potentially 4 corpses of the fungal priests in there. And again, I don't have to roll, so that's just is what it is. And the Terraform scroll is gone. Okay, I think we can turn off the Doom music. It served its purpose. Okay. So we're going to roll for all the fungal priests for their damage. So this is 3d6. First one takes 6 damage, not dead. Second one, 9, dead. Third one, 11, dead. Fourth one, 11, dead. So the first one has 3 health left. I also could, I mean, maybe things falling into it would do, but I specifically tried to avoid anything falling into the pit. That was unnecessary. So it's just kind of down there at the bottom. Of course, just giant plumes of spores got spawned up from this massive hole suddenly appearing, and the giant mushroom will fall over, doing basically destroying the rest of this church. So I need to decide if it hits me or not, because that could probably pretty easily squash me. I am flying, so I am somewhat mobile, and it's not going to be that fast of a collapse. I think the way to do this is an agility roll, of course. Let's do an agility roll, and we'll set the check at 10, how about? Because I'm flying, so I think it's going to be fairly easy for me to dodge such a big object. We got a 12 and a 4. We're fine. So it falls to the side, caves right through one of the sides of this church, which is in even worse shape now. Just massive, like, shaking of the earth as it hits. Giant plumes of spores. Yeah, quite a quite a mess. Okay. On the fungal priest next turn, he probably tries to start climbing out of this pit. And there's... Well, no, he probably doesn't even do that. He's not really aware of anything. So, I don't know, he's just kind of, like, squirming down there. On my next turn, I stop flying. So I'm now at the edge of this pit on the ground. And I'm going to take a shot with my bow. It does matter how long it takes me to hit him and kill him, so we will do the rolls, because I am on a timer with the breathing. I only have the one scroll. So let's roll a d20. 16 plus a d6, yeah, 21. Oh, technically that is a crit, isn't it? Because it says here, it says somewhere, damn it, it was definitely in the example, right? So he rolls a d20 and gets a 17, a critical hit. So in their combat example, he rolled a 17 and got a crit, because if you roll 10 or more above the number you're trying to get, it's also a crit. And in this case, he's fighting zombies with a defense of 6. So I rolled a 21 versus their 10. I crit, which means that I do double damage. So 2d6, which was 3. Damn it. Damn it! With their damage resistance 1 I gave him. He has 1 health left. So another round of combat goes by. 17, and okay, I crit again. Another 3. Now he's dead. And I see no more movement down there. I could activate the fly, but it's only 2 turns. And technically we're not in combat anymore. Although combat could start again with all that ruckus I just made. Something else might wander in. So I kind of want to... It says combat and encounter turns take a few moments each and last 10 minutes in total. So that means this is still an encounter. Because we're not exploring. I mean, I don't know. Are we? It doesn't say how long an adventuring turn takes. Just settlement and wilderness turns and combat encounter turns. So I don't know how long my flight lasts at the moment. I don't like that system. I feel like I may need to like rewrite the whole magic section, just to be more concrete with timing. Even something as simple as in combat, out of combat, just would help a lot. Without thinking about, oh, okay, am I in a settlement? Am I in an adventure site? Am I in an encounter? Am I exploring? Anyways, I could activate flight right now, fly down there, and then we determine how long my flight lasts. Or I could climb down there, get the gem, and then fly out of there. And at that point, I'd probably rule that it just lasts the whole day again. But there's still some uncertainty as to my situation right now. But I don't know. I guess, does it matter? If I was a DM, would it really matter based on that distinction? With the rule that we have, where as soon as I enter combat, it's down to 2 turns. So I guess I'll just activate flight now, although, yeah, I mean, it makes flight more powerful than it probably should be. But whatever. And then I'm going to fly down there. So, do I see the corpse, and do I see the gem? We've already kind of decided as a DM that the corpse was here, underneath the giant mushroom. By all accounts, it should be right here. Unless something horrible has happened to someone, or, you know, something lied or something. I don't know. I mean, I probably just find the corpse. Solo D&D is hard. I mean, part of it is I'm inexperienced with solo RPGing. Part of it is I'm inexperienced with this game system. Part of it is that I don't entirely agree with everything in the game system. And then part of it is solo RPGing is hard. All right, I guess let's roll. I mean, you know, something could change. It could be interesting. So let's roll a deterministic, do I see the corpse? And we'll roll with advantage, because I think it's likely I see it. We got a 10. Strong, yes, it's there. It's so there, it's like resting just in a venerated position. And this corpse is not even, it doesn't even look like a human corpse. It looks like a collection, it looks like a pile of mushrooms in a human shape. Like if you took like a cookie cutter kind of thing and you filled it with mushrooms and it was the size and shape of a human. That's what's resting there in like solid form. Is the gem shiny? No. No, it probably looks quite dirty and filthy, actually. It was buried. The question then is, did the priests recognize that the gem was what was responsible for this? And I think no, because I think if they recognized that, probably it was almost like a willful delusion. They believed that this guy was sent from their god, so he was like blessed by the god. They wouldn't think that the gem was blessed. They would think that he was blessed, and he happened to have this kind of dull looking gem in like his satchel or something. So I do think they buried him with all his possessions. They wouldn't, of course, rob him of any way, even after death. So he was buried with everything, but I don't think the gem would be like cupped in his hands or something, you know, in like a special position. I think it would be in like his bag. So probably there is like a satchel or something, you know, some sort of, not a backpack, but you know, what he carried with him, just kind of resting there nearby in the pit. So that's probably going to be Garland's point of inspection. So let's fly over there and pop open the satchel. And I could roll to see if the gem is in there, but I'll be honest, I'm so worried that I'll roll badly and it's not in there. Like, I'm like so invested at this point. I need it to be there. I will be upset as a human being if it's not in there. So we're just gonna skip the middleman and say that I obtained the gem, finally. The object of all our troubles. This dull-looking gem that just kind of pulses with, you know, dark magical energy. Now, you know, Garland knows that this is the source of the spores. This thing, for whatever reason, is capable of causing spontaneous fungal growth. So I think we kind of want to handle it pretty carefully. So I'm probably going to keep it in the satchel. Keep it as far removed from my person as I can. And actually, what we should do, and what I am going to do, I'm going to take my rope and I'm going to wrap it around that. So I'm going to carry the satchel at the end of my rope as I fly away. But I want to determine if there's anything else in the satchel. So I'm going to do another deterministic roll with disadvantage, just because I don't think I need anything else to be in the satchel, but there could be. We got a 6 and a 9, so a weak yes. There is something else in the satchel. Not anything great, not anything amazing, but let's generate some sort of treasure thing. Just something. Just give me something. Medicine, spices, herbs. Okay. I mean, again, I'm probably not going to take this because I don't want anything to do with this taint. But you know, just for, like, if I was DMing and the players ask, is there anything else in the satchel? Yeah, there's some medicine. There's antifungal cream. Some coins, maybe. Sure, we'll throw some coins in there. There are, let's say, 15 silver. I'm not touching any of it. Again, this was kind of pointless because I just for the sake of rolling. But there's 15 silver in there, some sort of medicine that I can tell is medicine, and the gem. I'm gonna just wrap my rope around the satchel, tie it up, and I'm flying out of there. I'm not looking for anything else in the church. I'm not searching for jack shit. We out of there. And I can fly for the rest of the day. I fly over to the ocean. And, I don't know how far we fly. I'm going to fly out for like an hour. Like, decently far. And I'm going to drop the satchel. I'm going to drop the rope. I'm just saying goodbye to all of it. And obviously, shortly after flying away from the church and out of the spores, my breathing spell did go away. But while flying back, I'm gonna fly through the ocean a little bit. I'm gonna strip nude. I'm gonna discard every ounce of clothing I have. Which does beg the question of how I'm carrying all this stuff. Maybe I'll keep, like, my belt. I just got a bunch of stuff kind of looped around my belt and stuff. I'm probably quite an odd sight. But I'm even gonna ditch my leather armor. Like, hey, I don't want any trace of spores. What is base armor? 8? Oh, but I leveled up, so 9. Alright. So currently I have 9. Magic. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Magic solves everything. Okay. Then I'm gonna fly back home to my home in the slums and, you know, get a change of clothes. And I don't, well, I guess that's... I don't fly into the slums. I fly outside of the slums, out of sight. And then I literally just walk back into the slums naked. Because that's probably not the most uncommon sight. If I was trying to go into the city, that would be trickier. But, you know, I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm a good-looking young man. It's all good. Okay. And, so I get a change of clothes. I'm gonna have to buy some more armor at some point. But otherwise, we're good. And then getting back into the town. I think we're gonna wait. Public indecency. Dude, it's the slums. There's no police. We're outside of the walls. We police ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, maybe some woman with her child shrieks, but, you know, these are dark times and dark days, so it's just... it is what it is. So there's no point rushing back to the governor's office, because I can just say, yeah, I solved the problem. Trust me, give me money. They need to be certain that it's not spreading anymore. It needs to be pretty clear. So we're gonna just wait a few days anyways. And then we'll sneak back in. So why don't we just wait a few days? We'll wait till the 7th. So let's fill this in. Flew to spores. Went into church. Found fungal priests. Cast terraform to make pit. Killed priests. Found gem. Tossed gem into ocean. Get some clothes, drink some booze. Hell yeah. That was a sticky situation. What, me coming back naked or me in the church? And you know, it's always hard to say, because when you don't have... If we had this situation, and I was a player, say even like a solo player, and there was a DM, and say you gave this situation to 100 different DMs, there would be 100 different outcomes, because every DM is going to handle conflicts and situations and complications differently. Some DMs are huge, like, pushovers. And basically, you know, if you kind of tell them your plan and all that, they just want things to go well for you. They don't want to mess things up. and things just happen, and it's good. But that's not a very fun game to play, trust me. I've played with DMs like that. And then there's DMs that don't want things to go well for you at all. And are basically antagonistic. And that can go in a couple different ways. Because if you have a DM that's antagonistic in the sense of they're just throwing shit at you constantly of just like problems, that can be kind of interesting. As long as they're willing to like play it out and let you try things to try and, resolve these. There are killer DMs, but they're not like obstinate DMs. They like a really rough game for the players. Some people like that. But the worst DM that I have experienced are the DMs that just say like no, that don't even humor the situation, or don't even humor like your response or your plan, and they're just like, no, this is how it happens. That's the worst. When you feel just utterly useless and helpless because the DM is not even considering what you're trying to do. So that's the bottom of the bottom. Pretty sure the huge mushroom would have come to life with an evil DM. That would have been fun. I mean, that would be interesting. That would be like, oh shit, this is fucked. But, that's at least interesting. Even worse, like is the DM that when I went to the secretary is just like, no, you're stupid. Get out of my place. You're dumb. Guards, arrest this man. I hate him. Or, like, oh, I want to fly. Like, oh, you immediately, the spores go into your skin and you die. And it's like, okay, great. Why am I playing? They have an exact story they want to tell. Yeah, I played D&D 4th edition online with a random stranger DM, and that was very clear. He had his story, he had his combats, and he wanted to and I tried to like, finagle my way out of a combat, and that was like the greatest sin that a player could possibly pull in his game. And it's just like, no, you're dumb. Anyways, so let's say May 5th, nothing. / drinking. Get our drink on. May 6th, nothing. / drinking. I'll even deduct 5 silver. Just do some drinking. I probably could spend this time networking to find the black market. No, I have clothes at my house. Don't worry. I do not own one set of clothing. So I guess let's try and do a roll to maybe do some light networking while I'm drinking at some of the bars in the slums. So let's roll Guile. According to the rulebook, you either roll Guile or Command in social situations. Command is when you're doing it from an authoritative position. Guile is everything else. So let's roll a Guile, just to see if we can maybe loose some secrets about the local criminal activity from the locals. Let's set the check at, I don't know, 10 seems kind of low. But, yeah, it's probably not too bad. We don't even really have to set a check. We could just kind of determine the results from our roll. But let's just see. We got ourselves a 10. Right there. So we get basically the minimum amount to amount to actual information. And what do we want to decide about how... actually, I'm not going to do anything with this week. So we'll wait for next week, where I hammer out some more of the actual details from the DM side of things, of how the criminal activity in Guthwald operates. But let's just say for now, on May 6th, found out about criminal elements in Guthwald. TBD. TBD. That's what that is. Okay. And then May 7th. The morning of May 7th, snuck back into city. Let's see, I slept 1, 2, 3 nights. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm back at full health. But then we'll lose 1 for casting shadow form. And we head back into the city, and we go to Bartholomew, Lord Bartholomew. And he has determined, however he has determined it, that Kurthorn is not in Staunton, because, well, actually, it's pretty easy to determine, because Kurthorn's still in town here, and he's not happy about it. So Lord Bartholomew is pleased enough to pay us our 500 silver. I think he probably wouldn't be entirely happy that we managed to put the entire city in quarantine. But he also doesn't want to... you know, it's kind of like... It's kind of like in Breaking Bad. I don't want to spoiler Breaking Bad, though. I guess it's been years now. If you haven't watched Breaking Bad, that's your own fault. But you know, in one of the later episodes in the last season, when Walt and Hank are talking, and Walt's like, you know, if that's all true, then you know, you might want to consider who you're talking to. If it's true that Garland actually managed to like plant infected spore meat on the docks to cause this whole quarantine just to delay this merchant, Bartholomew doesn't really want to like fuck around and find out with a man like that, so just pay him and move on. So there you go, job done. 615 silver pieces. But the big money, the big payment, we go back to the governor's office. And we wait in line, of course. And we tell the clerk there that we need to speak with Hieronymus Niedermeyer about a contract we had. And we wait a little while longer. And we end up speaking with Hieronymus. Who confirms to us that for the last few days, there has been no noticeable growth whatsoever of the spores. And in fact, their flame crews that they have out there are actually, you know, sort of pushing it back finally. I mean, I don't know if he would pay me this quickly as to, you know, that the situation is resolved. But, you know, as far as the governor's concerned, some guy came in, said he was going to solve the problem. And then that very same day, it seems that the problem stopped growing. And now he's back alive and wants his money. So, you know, it seems okay, right? Again, if I was DMing for a group of players, I wouldn't make them wait like a month, because that's boring. So, yeah, I guess he pays out. Again, when we kind of were determining facts about the governor, Aurelian, I said that, you know, he wasn't like that honorable of a man as far as his personal aspirations. Like he just wants, you know, more power and money and wealth like most government officials. But he is very conscious of the public and the public's eye and stuff like that. So screwing over me, screwing over the guy of basically a small amount of money, when I'm potentially in control of the gem that has caused this whole issue. Like, as far as he knows, I still have the gem stashed somewhere. I mean, I said I was going to dump it in the ocean, but I could have lied and just held it for safekeeping for a moment somewhere else. And, you know, they don't pay me. I dropped the gem in the middle of the city. I mean, they have no idea. And I still could potentially do that, as far as they're concerned. But I think they're going to try and just move things along and just pay it and be done with it. That's how I'm ruling it. And it's again, I think it's tricky solo RPGing to not be the type of player that just like, yes, and I win this, and I get this, and I win everything, and I'm the greatest human to ever live in the world. Because you're in control of both sides. So, yes, I mean, there are the oracles and the roles and stuff like that, but sometimes you kind of just have to be somewhat fair. So I think it helps to actually DM like normal games first before trying solo RPG. So you have some framework of how the back and forth should work. Or watch like Critical Role or things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think he asks Garland a few questions about how it went and what happened. And Garland probably doesn't lie. I mean, he says he found fungal priests in there that are now dead. And he took the gem in a satchel and tossed it into the ocean. And that's kind of that. And it's been a few days. So if I was infected, like, you know, I would probably know it. So, and I guess we never rolled for that, but that's just because I was very precautious. Maybe a dickish DM probably would make some sort of roll or make some roll happen that check to see if I was infected in some way. But I'm not a dickish DM, especially not to myself. So, yeah, bada bing, bada boom. Give me my 8,500, which means we're at 9,115 silver pieces. Hot damn. That's a lot of silver. We may want to convert that to gold. It's 10 silver per gold. Because we're like carrying around a chest of it. Into the slums. Yeah, we may want to manage our money a little bit. Put it into the bank here or something. And that could be like all he does. He doesn't actually hand me money. He could hand me like a check or something, you know, like a writ for the local bank that pays me a certain amount. And then if I want it in coinage, I have to go to the bank and withdraw that. Let's say that's how that makes a bit more sense. So let's say that let's see, got paid 500 from Bartholomew, which I spelled wrong again. Got paid 8,500 from Governor. Bank account at let's take the bank from the Gentleman Bastards. So Miraggio's bank equals 8,500. That's how much I got in the bank right now. Aren't I in danger with how much money I have? Yeah, well, that was my concern. Taking a chest full of 8,500 silver back to the slums. So the quarantine is still in effect. And I'm probably just gonna stay in the city, like at a inn or whatever, until the quarantine blows over, and yeah, we'll kind of decide what to do with our money. But right now, it's all sitting in the bank. And we have to come to some decisions about where we want this campaign to go from here, because it can go in a lot of different directions. I am not personally, as a player, a fan of like dungeon crawling and digging, going into tombs in search of treasure and adventure and stuff like that. I don't really care for that. I like bigger picture stuff. So I would be fine just running like a town for a few years or something. But again, I point back to Garland's motivations for accumulating wealth and power. He wants to gain enough magical power and influence to revolutionize society for the better. So me just opening up a few bakeries in a city, or me like purchasing a whole town and running it as like the local governor or whatever, is not really enough. I'm never going to gain magical power and influence doing it that way. So we do have to go into some sort of conflicts. We have to find some sort of way to accelerate that timeline. Because if I just run a town for the next 60 years, I'll probably end up with a good amount of money, but not world-changing amount of money or power. He's a communist. Yes, well, that's what I said at the start of the stream, is that Garland would probably approve quite a bit of what they're doing over in the commune as far as using magic to revolutionize society for the better. Not necessarily the specifics of necromancy and how they're doing it, but the concept is something good to him. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure. It's something to think about, and it's something to take suggestions for. I think spending a few years in game running some businesses just to maybe double or triple our money is somewhat of a possibility. Maybe as a bigger campaign goal, we could go down to the Empire of Nim, to Talus, and I don't know. Like, they have airships. If I could somehow take airship technology and find a way to duplicate it, mass produce it, introduce it to other societies, I mean, that would be a big boon. Yes, there would be a lot of money involved, of course, but that would be a good thing. Not quite what Garland imagined, but I think if he accomplished that in his life and then died, it would be fairly good. Although, again, how much does airships and airship travel help common man working the fields? I don't know. Most peasants out here near Guthwald in the slums, working the farms, they're never going to ride on an airship, even if they were commonplace. Lots of questions to think about, lots of directions to go from here. But the timer has kind of relaxed. We solved the big problem that I introduced of the spores. So overall, I'm very pleased with how the session went and this mini arc went. Pretty good. I should recruit a Minotaur to be my sidekick. Where did that come from? That's your suggestion? I think it would be kind of cool to accumulate sort of a party of individuals, like not like Quinn, not sellswords, but like other heroes, and we could have a collection of character sheets and stuff. Minotaurs always get slept on. Yeah, I mean, well, Minotaurs usually aren't members of like a functioning society in D&D or other fantasy games. Usually they're just depicted as enemies. I don't think this game even has a Minotaur. Nope, it has a Minotaur. Here's what this game says about Minotaur. The Minotaur prowls with a thunderous fury, its colossal form brimming with raw strength and primal rage. With each earth-shaking step, it charges headlong into battle, its massive horns poised to impale any unfortunate soul that crosses its path, leaving behind a trail of chaos and devastation. It's usually not the type of creature that you're going to just share a drink with at the bar. some versions of D&D, I think, have had Minotaur as playable characters. I don't remember which ones exactly. They're pretty dangerous, though, man. 30 health, 14 defense, DR2, D8 skill, 2 great axe attacks. With advantage? Holy shit. You are imagining him more like Chewbacca. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm... This monster list, this bestiary, is, of course, based on his setting, the Fallen Lands. So I'm not technically... I don't have to adhere to it completely. Outside of just stats and stuff. But I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of ways we can go from here. And we could just, like, roll for various things just for inspiration and what we kind of want, like, you know, set up plot sheets and who knows, man. The world's our oyster, and I have a whole world map. There's loads of different things we could do there. We could go up north past God's Teeth into Lovecraft country at the Mountains of Madness up there. We could go to the commune and see how they're doing with the undead. We could go visit the strange northerners. I mean, of course, I'm inclined to go to Talis and check out the Empire, because that's the broken god. Not the broken god, on the backs of gods. And obviously that's a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to decide anything at the moment because we're going to end the stream here, but I think that was a good, successful one. So I'm excited. I'm not tracking XP. But if I was, that was an adventure quest, I would say. That's worth 20 XP. And we need 30. Is that 30 total or 30 more from level 2? It's probably 30 total, so technically I probably would level up, but I'm not going to do it yet. I have to go to Lovecraft Country at some point in October. Yeah, that might be fun. Set up a whole expedition beyond God's Teeth to finally see what's up there. That won't be disastrous or anything. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in, chatting, for commenting, for suggesting stuff. Really makes this a much better experience for me. So we are gonna continue. We're pretty much gonna continue with this specific campaign until Garland dies, and then at that point we'll see if I want to just reset things or if we want to do something slightly different. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's going well so far. So, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging. I'll see you fine folks next